here with Lewis House. Thank you, Lewis. Nice to have you here. Finally.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, man.
Been wanting to have you on this show for a while. But for those of you that don't know Lewis House that well, a lot of my Latinos out there, I know you have a Latina girlfriend, right? And you know a little bit of Spanish. But we met at the 10X. At the 10X, original 10X in North Miami. I don't know if you kind of remember that a little bit.
Was that Miami?
Miami.
That 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
I think more like 4 years ago.
Yep.
Something like that. But you're like, so you're just Lewis House. So at first, I'll tell you what I thought. I'm like, this guy's a little bit cocky. But when I got to know you, I noticed a different Lewis. You're just like a special Lewis. Like you're your own self. You don't try to be somebody else. You're not into like flashy stuff. Like you really have a good heart and you're a good man. Like you always focus on helping and being a good example. Never heard you cuss. Maybe you cuss behind doors.
Yeah, a little bit.
That.
Yeah, a little bit. I try not to, but
you sound so proper all the time. So why don't you tell people like who you are and what's Lewis House's passion?
Oh shit! Now I gotta swear and mix it up. You know, I am passionate about changing lives. I feel like my entire childhood I suffered a lot. I just had a lot of emotional suffering, and we all have different walks of life and different types of suffering. You know, I'm a white male that lived in America, so right there I automatically didn't suffer in a certain way that someone maybe who is in that position.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of internal battles and questions that I was faced with as a child that made me very insecure, lonely, sad, depressed for a long time, almost my whole childhood. And I did anything that I could to get myself out of that situation. You know, I was sexually abused when I was 5. My brother was in prison for 4 years when I was 8. And I was in the special needs classes all through college, really. I had tutors. I was in classes with the kids who couldn't read and write. So I was just made fun of a lot.
Yeah.
So even though I was born in America, white guy, you know, all those things, it's like inside I didn't believe in myself, and I was very insecure and very lonely. And I felt like the whole world was out to get me in every part of my life. I thought my parents were out to get me, even though they loved me. It was the story I was telling myself. I thought classmates were out to get me, teammates, coaches, the world.
Yeah.
And when I had that story and I was convinced, I just had a lot of internal suffering because of that feeling that I was just like, no one cares about me. No one loves me. I'm stupid. I don't matter. This is kind of what I told myself over and over.
Yeah.
And I think I really went into sports as a kid as an outlet. I wanted to find a way that I could be good at something because I wasn't good in school. There was no class I was good at. But I found myself to be pretty good at basketball and other sports. And so I just went all in on sports, and I got really good at it. And then I started to make that my dream because I was getting rewarded. I was getting acknowledged. I was getting love and attention. So I was like, I want more of this. Let me work harder on this thing and get more love and attention. And then when I was done playing sports, I went and played professional football for a little bit. And when I was done, I got injured. My identity was gone. The thing that I got all my love and attention from, I could no longer create or do. So I had to reinvent myself. And that's kind of what I've done in the last, I guess, 10, 11 years now. It's just reinvented through business, through marketing, through writing, through podcasting, through creating content, and trying to get people out of that darkness that they might be facing. You know, whether they have a pain much greater than what I was facing, or lighter, or insecurity, or scarcity, whatever it is, my mission is to help people change their life.
Yeah, and nobody would think that you had any insecurities or in everybody's eyes, I would think that everybody thinks you're just a perfect, tough guy, good-looking guy. All the girls want you, and you just have it set. But being like really tall and strong and football player, it makes other people, I'm sure, think like, man, like we're also dealing, because a lot of guys deal with that kind of stuff.
I think no matter who you are, you're going to have some type of what's the stereotype?
Yeah.
You know, you're Mexican, right? Mm-hmm. So people stereotype you. They judge you just from the way you look.
Yeah.
They might think whatever. I don't know what the stereotype is. They're going to say whatever just because you're Mexican, you're Latino. You might have this stereotype that you perceive people think you have.
Yeah.
That they have of you, right? Where they might not be thinking it.
Yeah.
So my stereotype was, okay, I'm this tall white guy that plays football. I'm a jock. I must be, a drinker. I must be stupid. I must be not interested in really caring about other people's hearts. They had this perception about me. So my whole time in high school and college and playing professional football, I just said, I want to be the opposite of whatever someone's going to judge me as. So if they think I'm going to be a dumb jock that just drinks and goes to parties all day, I'm not going to have a sip of alcohol. So I didn't drink a sip of alcohol, and I've never been drunk my entire life.
Wow, really?
I didn't have a sip of alcohol in college. I'll now have a shot of Bailey's on ice like once or twice a year for like a celebration. But I've never been drunk because I don't want to live up to the judgment or the stereotype that people have of the way I look or how I speak or what I've done in the past. So I'm always trying to break those things down, probably just like what you're trying to do. You're always trying to break out of this, stereotypical Mexican, whatever it is, whether it's like a lacking of a financial abundance, whether it's lacking of intelligence. I don't know what the stereotype might be for you, but it's like, or, whatever the president has put on stereotyping Mexicans.
You make a good point,
evil and mean. And I don't know, it's like.
And you make a great point because, for example, like me, I'm like the typical Mexican guy that's not supposed to make it or be successful. So I know Tai Lopez. So what I was always trying to get it, and I know Grant Cardone for years too. You know him for a little longer than me, but I grew up, and then when I got older, I started doing the 10x thing and getting pumped up, going to Tony Robbins events, and just believing in myself more. So I started doing like what Tai Lopez was doing. Like I got a Ferrari to get attention and kind of be like, I made it.
Yep.
And even though I could barely afford it when I first got it, it gave me that extra power to like keep going. And then people were like, no, he's faking it or this or that. And I just kept fighting. And then pretty soon I started being more comfortable and making it better, like really making it. And then I just started, but I always had all the odds against me, and I always was the underdog. So that just gave me like more. It was like a reward to me to keep going forward, and it was like a dream since 6 years old. But now
you made it come true, man.
But now, like going back to when you were a kid growing up, I know at 5 years old you talked about what happened, but how much did that affect your life? And besides that, did you grow up like intelligent? Were you middle class?
I was the dumbest kid in my family. I was the dumbest kid in my class. And what they did, I don't know if they did you grow up in USA or Mexico?
I grew up in Echo Park, downtown LA, but I went to school in the Valley.
Gotcha.
But I didn't speak English till the first grade.
Okay,
my parents
gotcha.
taught me Spanish. That's it.
So, in the school that I went to, in our grade cards, they would rank us.
Yeah.
Based on how well we did throughout the entire class. I was always in the bottom 4 of my class, all through elementary school, middle school, high school. I never broke the bottom 4 in academics. So it just kept confirming how stupid I was. Every time I get a grade card, every quarter for the classes, I was in the bottom 4. Sometimes I was dead last. And imagine getting a grade card knowing you're the stupidest kid in class. Like, it doesn't build confidence. It's like you getting last place in sports.
Yeah.
It doesn't build confidence as an athlete if that happened. So I just kept telling myself, I'm not smart. I'm never going to be smart. Like, I'm stupid. No matter how hard I try, how many tutors I have, how many hours I try to read this book, I can't remember what I'm reading. I can't remember the questions. Like, I get stressed out in tests. Like, everything perpetuated itself. So test taking always made me super nervous, super sweaty, and I just couldn't focus. And so it just became a story that was hard to break for me in academics. And then when, I remember as a kid, I didn't have any friends. My brother was in prison. They wouldn't let me, like the parents wouldn't let me hang out with their kids in the neighborhood because my brother was in jail for selling drugs. So I must be a bad kid too. And so imagine for 4 years not having any friends and going to a prison every single weekend to visit your hero, who's your older brother. This was my life. And so it was, and my parents, my dad's working till 7:30 every night. Mom's working multiple jobs. We have a house. We live in middle America, Ohio, but there was a lot of stress and screaming from the parents a lot. So I never felt really safe. And I didn't have any friends. And it wasn't until I turned about 13, 14, when I started to get friends because of athletics. Because all my alone time, I just went to the basketball court and shot hoops by myself for years. So I got really good, and then people wanted me on their team finally. And I said, wow, there's a way to find friends. I'm going to get really good. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be the best. And that's where I put all my energy in. But I had to learn, it's funny, when you don't have friends, you observe people. This is what I did. I would just watch kids in school, and I'd watch why people would do what they would do. Mm-hmm. I would observe their mannerisms, what they would say, why they would laugh at something. And I became really good at just understanding people at an early age. And I remember I wouldn't speak, I would just ask questions because I didn't think what I had to say was an intelligent thought. And so I got really good at asking questions in my teens and just listening. But I was also terrified to speak in public because I never practiced it. And I couldn't even stand up and share in front of a room of like 10 students because I was just afraid that they were going to laugh at me. So when I turned 23, I went all in on public speaking. I said, I need to master this. I no longer want to have any fear in my life. So I created a list of all the things I was most afraid of. Salsa dancing was one. Yeah. Public speaking was another one. And I just went all in on these fears. And I realized over time, that's the thing that gave me a lot of confidence and belief. When I eliminate fear through mastering the fear, essentially becoming Batman and living in the Bat cave when you're afraid the most, that's when I was like, wow, I actually don't need friends. I don't need to become someone else to attract people that I don't really care about, to get the approval of them. I just said I want to become more of myself, and I'll go on dates alone if I need to. Yeah. But I'm going to love who I am. And in return, I started to attract people because I wasn't trying to, like you said in the beginning, like I wasn't trying to impress per se. There are different moments in my life where I was trying to like say things or post things to be impressive. I think I'm more at a stage in my life where I just don't need to. I mean, I just got a watch. My friend gave it to me for Christmas, but I usually don't wear a watch. I wear a black shirt that's $20. Maybe I'll get a nice pair of shoes every now and then, but it's like I try to just keep it very simple and focus on the mission. And I'm not saying it's wrong to like look nice. I dress up sometimes, but it's like I try to focus on my mission, which is to impact humanity at the highest level, and not focus on the things that, or just not focus on things that take away from the impact. So that's just where I'm at. So when later in your life, when was it when you? Because I know in your book you mentioned, was that the first time you mentioned about the abuse? Your book? It was my book. Yep. And that was recently. That was like 3 years ago, right? I had opened up about the sexual abuse about 5 years ago on a podcast. Okay. And then I wrote about it in my books. Yeah, because I heard it on your book. Yeah. But when you were growing up, you were a football athlete, and I remember you were living in your sister's couch. Yep. You were successful. You were popular and all that, but you still had that thought in your head, right? It was still kind of affecting you. I mean, I was successful in sports, but I thought I was like stupid. And I didn't think anyone liked me because I didn't have anything interesting to say. Yeah. I had zero intelligence from an academic standpoint. They only liked me because I could play sports well at that point. And then when I was done playing sports because I got injured and I was sleeping on my sister's couch, I was terrified because I was like, who is going to like me or who's going to love me now? Who's going to want to hang out with me if I don't have this skill that everyone liked me for? So I just said I need to reinvent myself. I need to develop new skills. I need to not rely on one thing from the past that I don't have anymore. I need to, I want to learn about writing a book. I want to learn about speaking in public. I want to learn about dancing. I want to learn about art. I want to learn about music. I wanted to educate myself about the world, and that's what I started to do. So when that happened, is that when did you have like money from being a professional football player? I had no money. I was on my sister's couch. I begged for money from my brother. My dad had just gotten into a really bad car accident where he was in a coma for 3 months, and he woke up, but he's never been the same since then. So it was like I lost my dad emotionally, but he's physically still alive. Yeah. But the conversation is kind of the same conversation repeated over and over again. So I didn't have financial help from my dad. My mom didn't have any money. My sister was working a job. My brother was working a job. I was asking for money from them and living for free at my sister's place for 1.5 years. And that's when I started reaching out to mentors. Mentors became a huge part of my life. I reached out to mentors. And one of them said, you should check out LinkedIn. I hear people are getting jobs on there. I hear there's some opportunities. And so I just went all in on LinkedIn. I would spend 6 hours a day on there, building relationships, reaching out to people, creating groups. And then I started hosting networking events from those groups. I wrote a book about LinkedIn. I created an online course. I just started going down the next step about how I could help more people and create opportunities for myself.
Yeah.
And it just kept growing from there. And I just said, I'm going to keep building this thing.
Speaking about LinkedIn, how is it still, do you feel it's still a good opportunity to jump into it? Or because I know you got into it like in the beginning, right?
Yes. I think I got on with this 12 million people, and I think there's 260 million people now. I think it's better now because there's a new news feed, and you can post a video that can get a ton of views.
Yeah. And
you can get a lot of comments and engagement. It's just like a Facebook feed or a Twitter feed. So for me, I'm getting a lot of engagement on my LinkedIn page now.
So, like, was the podcast, LinkedIn, was that how you started making money after your sister's couch? That's how you became successful?
I started to make money
your book?
teaching LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Because I was building my LinkedIn profile,
yeah,
trying to find a job, and I was connecting with many people as possible. Through building out my profile, people would email me on LinkedIn and say, man, your profile looks really nice. Can you show me how to optimize my profile? I just started helping friends for free. So then I helped a guy, and he's like, you have no idea how this is going to change my business. Here's $100. And that was the most money I'd made pretty much ever.
Wow.
Like, I made $250 a week playing arena football, and he paid me $100 in like 30 minutes. He was like, you have no idea how much this is going to help me in my business. I go, really? How? He's like, well, you just did this. Now I'm featured in the top of the search rankings on LinkedIn when you type in marketing, and I'm going to get all these leads. You just optimize this over here for me. You did this. Like, it's going to be a game changer for me. I'm going to get a lot of money out of this. A few months later, he was like, I made a $10,000 contract. I got these leads. And I was like, really? So I started saying, I'm a LinkedIn coach. And I started coaching people on how to optimize their profile. And I was getting $100 an hour. Then I was like, all right, let me charge more, $200 an hour, $300 an hour. And I remember I was doing these, kind of trading my time for consulting on teaching LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm never going to be able to get past this mark. Like, it's good money, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to teach one-on-one. Yeah. I wanted to reach more people. So that's when the idea of writing a book came about. And I said, I don't know how to write a book. I almost flunked English in high school, but let me find a mentor who's written a book. I found a mentor. He guided me through the process. 6 months later, wrote my first book at 25. And it was a book about LinkedIn. And I would host these networking events that I was creating for LinkedIn. And I started selling my book at the events. I started charging people to come to the events. I started selling sponsorships. I did 20 events in 1 year, all on using LinkedIn's platform to promote these networking events in different cities around the country. Then I created someone asked me to do a webinar to teach LinkedIn because he was like, no one else is teaching LinkedIn that I'm aware of. Can you come on my platform and teach it? I did a presentation. I made an offer, and I made $6,200 in an hour. And that's when everything changed. At this moment, I was living at my brother's house paying $250 a month. Because my sister kicked me out after a year and a half.
Yeah.
And my brother said, his wife was like, he can stay, but he has to pay. And so he made me pay $250 a month. And it was a lot of money for me at that time. And I remember doing this webinar, my first ever webinar, in 2009 in the summer in Ohio, and being in like this wife beater cut off shirt because it was so hot out, sweating my ass off. And I was terrified on this presentation. There was like 600 people on live, I remember, trembling, stuttering, because I hadn't really mastered public speaking. I was starting to practice it. And I was mumbling, I was scared. I was just trying to speak so fast to get as much value as I could out. And at the end, I just sent out this PayPal link. I didn't have a sales page. I had nothing. I had no course. I just said, hey guys, if you like this and you want more advanced training on LinkedIn, in a couple of weeks, I'll send you information about a new course I'm doing, which I'd never done a course. And there was $6,200 in my PayPal instantly. And I was like, this blew my mind. I had no clue you can make that type of money. And I said to myself, that was more money than I'd ever made in a year. And I made that in an hour, right? It was more money than I ever made. It blew my mind. And I said, if I will do this every single day for the rest of my life if I can make $6,200 an hour. So I started doing webinars pretty much every week for about 6 or 7 years. And if it was doing $20,000 in a webinar, it was a bad day. So I just studied webinars, studied presentation skills, studied sales, marketing, copywriting, sales pages, creating courses, created this LinkedIn course. Then I built about 12 other courses over the next 4 or 5 years. Just kept growing and growing to try to master it. After that time, I kind of got burnt out. I was just like saying the same thing every day, every week about how to use LinkedIn, how to use this other platform. And I was like, this is not what I want to do. But it made me a lot of money to the fact that I saved pretty much everything. And I had a couple of years where I could just like chill or try something new. And I had the financial means. And so I sold that company back in 2012. And then in 2013, literally a few days ago, 7 years ago, I launched the School of Greatness podcast. And I said to myself, after I sold this company, I go, what do I want to do next? You know, everyone's identified me as this LinkedIn guy, as this webinar guy, as this marketing guy, just like they identified me as this athlete before. And I got attention and acknowledgement from being successful in this other identity. And I said, that's not what I want to be. I don't want to just be an affiliate marketer, an online marketer, a webinar guy. Even though it was getting me a lot of success and acknowledgement, I didn't want to be the stereotype. So I said, I think this podcasting thing is going to be big one day. I don't know why. No one's really listening to it in 2012, but I was like, I think it's going to be big. And what I really want to do, since I have the money, I would ask people all the time, I would say, what I really want to do is I want to interview the world's greatest leaders and ask them about how they became so great. And I don't want to even make money with it. I just want to learn. And I want to share this wisdom with the world. And that's what I started doing 1 week at a time, 7 years ago. And now over 900 episodes and some of the most iconic people in the world. It's just been a blessing.
Now, question, Louis, when you started your podcast, how long did it take you to get to like 1,000 people, 2,000
I didn't get 1 million. I didn't even get 1 million downloads in the first year. So the whole first year, and that's with me knowing all the marketing expertise that I had, all the relationships, all the connections, all the big guests that I had on in the first year. I might have had Grant Cardone on in the first year. I had all these people, world-class, Olympic gold medalists, you name it, New York Times best-selling authors, I had them on. I got 750,000 downloads. That's it in the first year. That's doing every single week, being consistent, showing up, going hard, promoting it, doing whatever it took. It didn't even break 1 million downloads. Now, that may seem like a lot for some people, but 1 million downloads in a year, 52 episodes, is really not that much. It's pretty weak. Someone can launch a podcast and get 5 million downloads right now in a year if they have a decent-sized following. So for me, I had to deal with everyone not even know what a podcast was. People didn't even know how to go find it. It was like, where do you go on your phone? I had to educate people on how to even listen to it because they didn't know how to. So it was just a challenge getting people to buy in. Luckily, a couple years later, podcasts became more mainstream because of Serial, a big podcast that came out that kind of hit the mainstream. Then more people was able to find out about it. Then more big guests were coming on to promote their stuff. And, I think consistency really matters. I've been doing it for 7 years, and it's what allowed me to get someone like Kobe on, who just passed away, and say, hey, I want to come back on every year. He kept telling me, like, I love this so much, I want to do it again. Yeah. And
how was it? Because you had the most powerful interview with Kobe, and you had it like it was it 2 weeks or 3 weeks before he passed?
It was a year ago when I had him on.
Oh, that was a year ago?
Yeah, it was a year ago. But we reshared it on the podcast just after he passed. But I was supposed to go back on. He was supposed to come back on a couple months ago because he had a book that came out for kids. But I was in another country and I couldn't make it happen. And I remember saying to myself, like, he like follows me on Instagram. He would DM me, and he was like, "I really love the work you're doing. I want to do more stuff with you." And I remember, so they reached out again a few months ago and said, "We want to get Kobe back on the show." And I was like, I can't remember. I think I was in the middle of my event for someone of greatness. It was
Yeah.
like that week I was in Ohio. I would have to fly back, go back, prepare. I was just like, I can't do it, but let's do it in 6 months for your
Yeah.
next book, your next project. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. So I thought I'd get another chance with him, which I'm sad I didn't, because it was a really special experience for me.
Yeah. And that's why you do a lot of the stuff that you do. I noticed that like everything you do is like we were talking behind cameras about Guatemala. You go to Guatemala every year and you help build schools.
Yep. Yeah, I go to some country. Guatemala, I've been 4 times in the last 7 years. I've been to Guatemala, Laos, Ghana to build schools for kids. Yeah. For me, it's important to contribute to in the best way possible that I can to the world. And so I do that through my podcast. It's free. I try to contribute through information. I try to contribute through actually showing up for people one-to-one. I try to contribute through donating resources, donating money, donating time to the best of my ability. I always want to do more, but I do the best that I can every year.
Yeah. And I know your podcast gives a lot of information. It inspires a lot of people, helps. Is that your main business? Would you say? The
Podcast is what I care about the most. School of Greatness, for me, I'm going all in on it. For almost 7 years, it was like, it was something that I would do, but I didn't go all in on. I had tons of courses. I had events. I had mastermind, coaching, all these other things that I was creating, and I was using the mastermind to promote those other things to make money. Now I said, I'm cutting out a lot of other things. I just let go of my mastermind program this year, which generates a couple $1 million a year. And I'm really good at it, and I love, and it's fun, but it just takes time.
Yeah.
And if I want to be great at something, I know I need to go all in on that thing. I can't try to do 20 things at once, which is what I like to do, and I've been doing for a long time, and I'm good at it. But not one thing truly breaks through at the highest level. It's hard to 10x one thing when you're doing 10 things.
Yeah.
It's just challenging. Mm-hmm. So I've just made the decision this year to go all in on the podcast. That's why I'm building out a brand new studio I was showing you.
Yeah.
I'm really investing in it, investing in the team, investing in doing whatever it takes to get the biggest guests in the world, producing it better, just everything. I'm leveling everything up to try to differentiate, to try to, I think there's 700,000 podcasts now.
Yeah.
So people's time and attention is spread very thin. So how do you get them to pay attention to you? That's the key. And you got to continue to get better. You can't keep doing the same thing you've always done. You got to continue to get better. So that's what I try to focus on. And I got to be walking the talk. I can't be telling people to do it if I'm not doing it myself.
Yeah.
So that's the goal this year.
So for a lot of people that see your podcast, and there's like very few podcasts that are extremely good, like the Rogan one is really good, right?
He's the biggest one, yeah. He's great.
And for people like now, everybody sees you. They see all these top podcasts. People that want to get into it, like how I imagine it's really hard when you start it, and then you get like 5 viewers and 10 viewers.
It's very hard.
And then it's like, and I know it wasn't easy when you started it, but what's your biggest advice for people that want to start it? Should they start it, or is it kind of too late, or what should people do?
I think you should start it if you love something.
Yeah.
I don't think you should start it for money. I think you should start it because you love it. So for me, because if you start something just for money, but you don't love it, it's going to be very hard to be consistent in order for it to pay off.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, especially celebrities, are jumping into the podcast world right now because they're like, oh, it's a good way to make money. And they realize it's hard to transfer their audience over to listeners and keep those listeners and have consistent content every week and do what it takes. So I tell people, if you want to do a podcast, come up with a topic that you really, really love. Come up with something that's not copying other people. Or if it's copying other people, have your own spin on it. And think about something you'd want to do for a couple of years, minimum. And something you would do that you wouldn't make money doing, that you would still love even if you didn't make money. I went into my podcast saying, I'm going to do this for 1 year, and I'm not even going to try to make money. I don't want to take sponsorships. I just want to do it because I love it. And I'd still do it today because I love it. So it's just challenging. If you make the decision based on money, I feel like it's going to fail.
Yeah. Now, what is Lewis House's life looking for 2020? I know you're building you have a studio right here, or your office is down the street, and I know you have a girlfriend Latina, so like you're kind of like half Latino now.
Yes.
And we live in the same building. Was there something that brought you to this building an office here, and now you have a girlfriend Latina? Even your puppy is Latina, right?
Well, yeah, she's Korean, Latino, and American.
And I heard she moved in.
She moved in.
You mentioned it in the prior podcast.
She moved in, yes. Why did I move here? I was in my other place for 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And it was constant drilling in the units around me, and I needed a new building that made me feel at peace.
Yeah.
In this building, when I visited it and saw just how they take care of people here, it made me feel at peace.
Yeah.
And I wanted something in a different location. I wanted to level up. I wanted clean energy. You know, the last person I was dating was living with me for a while, and it just didn't feel like good energy anymore to stay in that same place. So I wanted to move, and I also wanted to have a very safe, secure place because I knew my girlfriend was going to move in with me. Mm-hmm. And I wanted Yanet, when she came, when she was visiting or living with me, I wanted her to feel very safe and have security and, all that stuff. So that's why I'm here.
Have you ever had a Latino girlfriend before?
I have. Thank you. I've never been in a committed relationship with a Latino girlfriend, but Latinas are amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Because I noticed you speaking Spanish too, and
I'm trying to learn. I'm actually looking for someone to teach me full time. Yeah. So I need someone to come here. If you know someone who's a teacher, I'm trying to hire someone.
I have a lot of them.
Do you?
Yeah, I have a lot of them. Yeah.
I need someone who can teach though. Teach Spanish.
A good teacher, yeah.
So
I'll think of somebody good for you. But we're around the same age, and I know for me, having a little girl, and now I have another little girl. A lot of people say that when you have kids, it's gonna get more crazy, and you're gonna have less time. And I noticed we were talking about it before the podcast that you're like running all over the place. Yeah. You have a lot of things to do, and we all do. But
even with a dog, I'm like, imagine what a kid would be like. It's crazy at another level.
I think kids might be easier.
Probably because this dog, it's like running all around town to the vet to get clean. Like, it's got to walk it 3 times a day.
So question, a lot of people want to know this. They asked me to ask you, like, are you planning on having some kids like in the near future, or is that, have you thought about that?
Am I planning on having kids in the near future? No, not in the near future.
You're good right now then.
I'm very good right now.
Yeah.
I think, starting a new relationship, I think for me, my opinion is I want to make sure that we are strong in our communication. Yeah. Especially as someone from a different country with a different culture, a different language, different lifestyle, living with someone like that who's also not 100% fluent, and we both are independent and have our own, dreams and visions. For me, this year is all about coming together as strong as possible and learning to communicate with someone who's completely different. Yeah. Who has a different language, who has a different culture, who's got different experiences, expectations. So that's the whole vision this year, is to build the strongest relationship possible through communicating, love.
Is that a little bit, does that get complicated, or you guys communicate really well? Because she's not that fluent in English, and you're like strictly English,
right? Yeah, I barely know Spanish, nothing. Is it complicated? I would say if it was 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have the patience to be able to handle it because I wasn't mature enough to be patient. I think it's been the perfect timing, where it's the perfect balance for me to grow into this level of patience that maybe I wasn't good at a few years before. Probably like when you have a kid, I don't know, I'm imagining like you have to learn how to be patient. Like you have to sit there and wait for your baby to stop crying. You can't be like, shut up. You have to sit there and patient and rock them. Even you're thinking about your business, you got to get back to someone, you got to call someone, but you got to be a loving father. Yeah. You got to be patient with your child for 10, 20, 30, 60 minutes, 2 hours until they fall asleep. Yeah. So, and you learn to grow into that. Mm-hmm. And I'm just learning to be a more patient, listening, understanding person. Yeah. And, that's where I'm at. So it's been perfect for me because I am not a patient human being. I want stuff done. I want it done now. I want it my way. And so it's teaching me to surrender. When you want to come together with someone, you've got to surrender to their way as well.
Yeah.
And figuring it out and communicating. And so it's been, I would say in the last month, it's been one of the most challenging months because our dog broke its leg Christmas Eve.
That's
Mamacita broke his leg Christmas Eve. I went to go visit her family on the 23rd in Mexico. Meet the family for the first
Mexico
time.
City, right?
No, it was near Monterrey, like south of Monterrey.
Okay.
So I went to go meet the family for the first time.
Yeah.
They don't speak English. I don't speak Spanish. So I'm trying to, body language, translate through her, everything. And just be myself in a foreign country. And their town is not like the nicest town. It's not like a luxury town. It's kind of sketchy with the town where they were at, south of Monterey, which is fine. I've been in very sketchy places. And Christmas Eve, the dog breaks its leg, right? Her sister is holding it. Everyone's dancing, having fun. The dog jumps, breaks its leg. We're in the vet all night, Christmas Eve. And and then I got to buy flights back Christmas Day to come do surgery the next day. Then it's just been, she moved when she wasn't supposed to move right then. So it's like getting stuff together. She only has a few limited things. Learning, it's just really kind of a stressful situation, transition. Then she leaves for work for a few days to Miami for New Year's Eve. I leave another country to Poland to do Wim Hof for a week. Coming back, then Kobe passes. Then she just has 5 people close to her die a couple days ago.
Wow.
And it's just been we had a different expectation for January 2020.
Yeah.
And again, what I'm learning is patience.
Yeah.
Like sometimes things I expect don't happen. And you've got to learn to be flexible and just surrender the process.
Yeah.
So it's been crazy and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, and I totally relate.
You can
relate. Yeah. Because, I was in the morning, I'm like mad. I wake up earlier than Sil, so I'm ready to take action. And I'm dealing with all these things. Then she wakes up 2 hours later, and I felt like I did a lot. And she's like, "We got to do this. This is."
Yeah,
and we started screaming. And then Italia, my 3-year-old, she was asking me, "Papa, please don't scream anymore." So then this was right after Kobe. So I'm like, dude, you never know if tomorrow you're gonna be here.
That's it.
And then I remember when we spoke or we messaged each other a month ago or 2 months ago. And you said, yeah, let's do the podcast like it's going to be at this later date. And then all of a sudden it's happening a year before we planned it.
Yeah.
And
I was launching this movie and I was like, okay, I'll do it now if you want.
Yeah.
So I'm doing press now.
So it's just weird. You never know what's going to happen. And you never know if you're going to be alive tomorrow or if your loved ones are going to be alive tomorrow. So you see things differently.
It's funny, even coming up here, I was downstairs with my lady and I just went down there for a few minutes and I was like, we were sitting for a few minutes, but then she walked away, and I was walking out to come up here, and she was like, "You got to say goodbye to me." And I was like, "I'll be right back." She's like, "We don't know if you're going to be right back." I think it's been a very sensitive week because of people died in her life.
Yeah.
Kobe died. She's like, "You could be gone in a moment. It doesn't matter if you're going upstairs. Something could happen."
Yeah.
And so I went back and hugged her, and I was like, "You're right. I love you. I'll see you soon."
Yeah.
It's just been a crazy month.
Should have just brought her up.
Should have brought, but she's with the dog. So.
Yeah, that's fine. But before we get into it, I wanted to talk about your documentary. But before that, I noticed that you were somewhere in the cold, in the ice, and you were getting naked and jumping into cold showers and things like that. What was that all about?
Wim Hof is.
I saw you with a lot of other influencers too.
Yeah, I brought 13 guys to Poland, January 5th, which was a whole experience in itself. In a month's time, wrangling all these influencers together to travel across the world. I wanted to start off the year with mindset training and some type of physical challenge for myself to push my mind and see what I was capable of. Wim Hof is one of the most crazy guys in the world where he's done a lot of physical challenges. He's been in the ice for he's got 30 world records with being in the ice. He's swam the longest in ice. He's held his breath the longest underwater in ice. He's done all these crazy things. He climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with just shorts in the snow, all these things he's done. And I was like, I want to learn from someone who's done extreme things. So I brought this group of guys and we did We jumped off of cliffs into frozen rivers. We climbed a mountain. I think it was like 25 degrees up there, 55-mile-an-hour winds, and just shorts, no shirt, snow. People are in full-on skis, snowboarding masks and clothes, and looking at us shirtless, thinking we're crazy. But it was an incredible experience because we trained our minds through breathing on how to withstand the cold or any type of pain. And when you can master your breath, you can master your body and the mind. And so that's what that week was. It was just like a private retreat that I brought these guys on.
Do you feel you came back stronger after that?
Absolutely. It's funny. I think with all that's happened in the last month, it gave me a great foundation for the year. Like, even though I feel stressed and overwhelmed at times, I'm able to reflect and just, okay, trust the process, surrender, breathe.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us forget to breathe. We're so shallow breath all day. We're like stressed. We're thinking about this and that. We're, babies running around, fighting, arguing. But it's like just breathing, full breaths allows your body and your mind to calm down. And you make better decisions when you breathe.
Yeah.
So it's just a reminder. I'm not perfect. I still, mess up and make mistakes. But it's like I want to constantly push myself and practice these things.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I really respect from you, and I really wanted you to kind of like ring a bell in my head, was when you I feel like you pushed I feel like you made Grant better because he was talking about some goals, and you told him like you got to think bigger. And then
every year I have him on, we do a challenge where I remember when he first started his real estate business, like the buying of the 10X fund, I guess, right?
Yeah.
He was doing like $30 million or something in real estate. And he was like, we're doing this much money and we're going to get to like $100 million this year. And I was like, that seems pretty small for you, doesn't it? I think he said like 90 million was the goal. Like, we're going to get to 90 million. I go, it should be 900 million. Shouldn't it be? And he starts getting like defensive and like, I'm like, but you're the 10X guy. Like 90 million, that's not really like impressive. And he was like, you're right. And he started thinking differently. He just started thinking differently about how to get bigger. And then he came on this time and he was like, I can't remember what he said, but he's like, we're trying to do $1 billion. And I was like, why isn't it 3 billion? Like, billion? Like, you're 60 years old, man. You should be much bigger than this.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's not possible. I go, you're telling me it's not possible. But what if it was possible? And he just started, he paused for like 20 seconds. If you go watch the video, you'll see him like put his hand in his head and pause. And I go, what if it was possible? And he just started thinking. And he's like, well, we couldn't keep doing what we're already doing, which is like buying 1 or 2 units at a time. When I'm talking a unit, I guess like a few hundred apartments at a time. He's like, we'd have to buy a whole fund. We'd have to buy like a $3 billion fund. And I go, okay, how do you buy a $3 billion fund? He's like, well, I'm sitting on 100 million. I could raise the other 900 million so I could have $1 billion to put the money down for $3 billion, and I could buy it that way. I go, okay, why don't you just do it? He's like, all right, I will. So it's just getting him to think differently. And now he's like, he and Ryan were talking right afterwards, like, okay, text this person, we have to call this guy. How do we buy? And I go, how do you do that? He's like, we got to buy the fund. We got to find that fund. I go, they're out there. He says, you're right.
Yeah.
So for me, you want me to do this with you? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, like how do you, yeah, like,
well, I think what's your,
with me, that would be great. But
what's your goal?
Well, our goal is to double every year. So, for example, one of our companies, the mortgage guys, it started with the mortgage guy, and then we added an S to make it a company, a plural, and started getting more people to, like, bigger ego guys to come and join the company and not be about you work in Albert's company, you work for the mortgage guys. Albert's not the guy, it's the company. And we hit 8 figures for the first time 2019. So now the goal is to double next year, so go from like 10 to 20 million, and then 20 million to 40 million, because I want to be realistic. So I want to double every year, and I don't want to.
What's realistic get you?
Well, realistic is some. I don't like a lot of.
That's
people,
like a Mexican stereotype right there. I want to be realistic.
Yeah.
You live in America.
Yeah.
So.
But
you gotta start thinking differently.
I get it, but a lot of people want to make $1 million. Like, I'm talking about regular people want to make $1 million, but they haven't made $100,000 yet. So why not?
You've
How
done
do you
8 figures.
How do you stop focusing on the 100 grand and start focusing on?
So what
on
would it
million?
take if you went from, instead of hitting 20, you already hit 40?
Yeah, well that's
What would it
what
take from 10 to 40? What would it take?
that's the.
How many more employees would it take? How many more deals? What would it take?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I'm asking you right now. If you hit 8, let's say you did 10 million and you're trying to get to 40 million in 2 years, what would it take to get 40 million by the end of this year?
We would have to get more agents, more
How
quality
many more
agents.
agents?
So instead of going from 100 agents to 200 agents, we would have to get to 400 agents. So we would have to go from 100.
Is that just
to 400.
like any agent, or is that
It has
the
to be
top
good,
performing
top
agent?
performing agents.
So where are they?
Where are they?
Where are those agents at?
They're out there. They're
Where?
out there. But I have to
Who's
hit
recruiting
those
them?
agents. Well, right now, as weird as it sounds, it's just me through my social media and our 100 soldiers that are spreading out the word. So the more we've grown, the easier it's been to kind of like it's been a viral effect.
How long does it take to get one agent to join the company? To leave another company or independent to come to your company?
In the beginning, it was very slow, but now we're starting to get about 2 agents a week.
Okay.
As crazy as 2 agents a week, which is very, very
So you
good.
have 100 agents and you need 400 to make 40 million. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
So every 100 is an extra 10 million, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Roughly, something like that. So you need an extra 300 agents this
Well,
year.
I would need somebody like a Lewis House or or somebody with a lot of reach to be like, hey, there's this company, and then that's how I could
That's what you need?
spread out.
Why don't you just have one? If you have 100 agents, why don't they just each get 3 agents to join and give them an incentive to recruit 3 people?
Yeah,
so you don't have to do the work.
We have something like that in place. We have to be more aggressive with it. We have to have it more dialed.
What if
dialed
you
in.
gave them a massive bonus each time they got one person?
Yeah.
Because if you get 400 agents, you're going to do 40 million roughly.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a surplus of cash. So it's worth you giving a big bonus up front to get someone in where you don't have to be spreading your audience. You just empower them to find one friend,
Yeah.
3 friends.
Yeah.
So I would give a bigger incentive for your agents and let them work for you as opposed to you doing the work,
Yeah.
and reward them for bringing in quality people.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. Don't think about you doing the work. Let them do the work.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense.
But I would also think about, and that's realistic to me, for the next 11 months to have them all get 3 people. That's realistic.
Yeah.
And that's jumping to 40 million by doing that. By you trying to to build your audience to this bigger audience, that's going to take time. So you got to think differently, and you got to let your team build it for you. But I would think that, I don't know how much impact work you're doing. I don't see that side of you.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and maybe I'm just missing it. Maybe I'm not seeing it, or maybe it's not being promoted well.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't want to promote it, but I think, is there an impact component to the money you guys make at your mortgage company? Is there a mission you're behind, as opposed to just like making money and, helping the agents make money for their families and empowering that? Do you guys stand behind a mission to impact something that you believe in, a cause, kids, schools, something?
Yeah. Well, to me, all the Latino community holds a big place in my heart, because they remind me of like when I came up, my struggles, and most Latinos think like it's just impossible to be successful here in America. So the Latinos hold a special place in my heart. The kids hold a special place in my heart. So we gone to schools and did like free talks and just to kind of motivate the kids and that kind of stuff. But I feel like we could be doing a lot more of that.
I feel like, I think most of your agents are Latino, right?
90%.
I think it should be pretty much 100%. It should be the focus.
Yeah.
And it should be like, this is our community. I mean, 90% is fine, but it's like, it should be all about the Latino and giving back to the community then in some way, whether that's schools, education, whatever you care about the most, whether that's the Latinos in Los Angeles or Latinos, I don't know, wherever you want it to be. But I think the more you dive into service and impact beyond for your employees and your agents, but also for your cause.
Yeah.
That's what I think is going to take you to the next level. You hear Grant talking about this all the time.
Yeah.
He wants to make more so he can give more, right? To his church is his thing. I think that's what's missing for you. And I think you not only make a bigger impact, you become a better person when you focus on service. Because what happens if you're not around tomorrow and you haven't created that?
Mm-hmm.
Then you've made some money for yourself, you've helped some people on your team, and you've set your wife up and your kids up for a period of time, but it's over.
Yeah.
It's done. Look at Kobe. It's done.
Yeah.
So I truly just try to focus on how can I build as many schools as possible? How can I impact as many kids' education as possible? So that if I'm gone, they're going to live a longer life, and they're going to hopefully impact their little communities in Guatemala that have nothing, and give them opportunities that that they otherwise wouldn't have had. So that's just what I would think could be possible for you. I think, one, empower your team, 100 agents strong, and say our mission this year is to get 400 agents. And I'm rewarding people massive. Make it stupid for them to incentivize to get 3 people. Give them, I don't know, 10 grand a person they bring in, 20 grand, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to jump to 40 million by the end of the year, by giving more money up front faster, it's worth it for you, because look at 2021, where that will be. So it's worth for you to invest now for the bigger rewards in 2021. Yeah. And when you get 400 agents marching and chanting about your mission, and then the impact you guys are creating with the cause you're starting to develop, because now your wife's got to hear this and say, we got to get behind a cause, and we got to start something, or we got to support something. Imagine the impact this brand will have and take off if you do that. I think you can still build your audience and build your personal brand and following, but you got to empower the agents on your team.
Yeah.
That's one strategy.
Yeah. No, thank you. Appreciate it. And now, like, what is it that makes you so good at that, though? Like, you're always thinking of how can I
see people, man. I see people. I'm a really good observer. It's what I did as a kid because I had no friends. So I just watched people. I see everything you do. Yeah. I see everything you do when you're in the gym. I see everything you do when you're driving in your car. I see everything you do when you're on social media. I see every comment you leave on people's page. I see it and I observe it and I study it with everyone. Mm-hmm. You may not think I am doing it, but I'm always doing it. I see what you do when you interact with your wife, when your kids are around, when your kids aren't around. I see everything you do, every move. I see when your heart beats more. Everything. I notice the words you say. I notice because I notice it about myself. I reflect on what I'm doing all the time, so I'm observant of other people. I noticed what you said when I walked in. You said, like, I'm working on this challenge. I'm not trying not to drink water because I want to make sure I win this challenge.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, why is it so important for you? All these little things that you do.
Yeah.
Why are you, so focused on hitting double every year? Why are you focused on making more money? Why are you focused on living this? I'm just observant of everything.
Got it.
And what's possible, in my opinion, one human being is a level of impact that you haven't created yet. You've made a massive impact for your family, for your life, for the Latino community that sees your life and is inspired by you, and for the agents that work with you. But I don't see a greater impact beyond that. And it's big already, but I don't see, you have so much potential in you to reach more people.
Yeah.
By impacting something greater.
Got it.
Greater than just, we want to double. We want to quadruple. We want to double every year. That's great. You should do that if that's what you want. Mm-hmm. But I think there's something greater for you.
Awesome.
And I don't want you to die just doubling your money every year.
Yeah.
For what? Because you got enough now.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. Do you watch replays on all the stuff you do to just check how you do it and what you do and catch like things that you could do?
Like my videos?
Yeah.
I don't. I should.
You don't study yourself?
I study myself introspectively because I'm studying myself right now. I'm aware of how I'm sitting, of how my legs are crossed, of how my hands are like covering like my gut right now. Like I'm aware of everything about myself.
Yeah.
Which makes me aware of other people too.
Yeah.
Because I'm always observant.
Yeah.
And I think that's what has allowed me to connect with people. Yeah. And I think I also had a unique childhood where I lived with 7 different exchange students from around the world, from 5 to 13, from all over the world, from France, Japan, Germany, Philippines. My dad wanted more kids We stopped having kids after me, but he just had exchange students come in. So I'd live with older sisters and brothers from all over the world from a young age, and I'd study their language, their culture. They would cook, they would speak, they would have their flags hanging in their room right next to me. So I just observed people from all over the world, and I've traveled all over the world playing sports.
Yeah.
I've been in the Latino community for 15 years, salsa dancing 3 times a week in the clubs, listening. I've traveled to South America a lot. So I just feel like I understand people's pain because I've had a lot of it myself.
Yeah, I think traveling around the world has made you more powerful. I don't know if you agree to that.
I just think experience makes you more skillful. It makes you have more awareness, empathy, compassion, understanding.
Yeah.
If I just stayed in Ohio my whole life, I wouldn't have that much understanding. So I educated myself by learning from mentors and humanity. And so I'm just constantly reading and studying people.
Do you have a lot of mentors?
I feel like everyone that I interview, I'm learning from, I'm mentored from. So I'm not like 1 or 2 mentors, but I'm always learning from people.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone. I learn from everyone.
Awesome.
So
now, Louis, I want to jump into your documentary. I know you have this documentary coming out, like a movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's like The Secret, but on steroids. Can you talk about that?
That's just what I'm calling it right now. It's called Chasing Greatness. I remember, again, I always want to break stereotypes, and I want to do things that other people in my space aren't doing. Mm-hmm. I launched a podcast before anyone even knew what a podcast was. I wrote a New York Times bestseller shortly after that. I created an event, and when a lot of people were getting out of events, I started an event 5 years ago. And then I said, I got to do something different. And a movie was something that I've always wanted to do, a documentary. I really like watching documentaries. I said, I want to produce one of these and create it. And I got together with some Hollywood film directors a few years ago. We started working on it a couple of years ago, started editing it, and last year we finished it, and now it's coming out. So I also bought greatness.com because I just wanted to own the word greatness as my brand.
Yeah.
I feel like every big brand uses greatness in their tagline.
Yeah.
I said, I want to own that word. The School of Greatness, greatness.com, I want it to be synonymous with my name. So when everyone thinks of the word greatness, they think of Lewis Howes, and they think of me. And that's what I'm investing in, is this long-term brand, building out greatness.com. We're launching it with a movie. It's free. You can go there and sign up to watch it for free. And that's what I'm most excited about right now, is spreading the message of how to eliminate self-doubt and insecurity. I believe that self-doubt is the killer of dreams. And when we doubt ourselves, we're doubting our creator, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. We're doubting the reason why we were put on this earth. And it took me many years to overcome self-doubt, and it held me back in a lot of ways. And it's the root of suffering for a lot of people, is doubt. Once they get past meeting their basic needs, suffering, making sure they have food and shelter and money and clothes, that type of suffering is different. I'm talking about the emotional suffering of insecurity, fear, shame, resentment, anger. And when we can get past that, it's a sense of freedom and inner peace I've never knew was possible once I learned how to eliminate self-doubt. And I just want the world to rid themselves of inner pain because it hurts.
Yeah. And
I want people to feel free. So we're creating this documentary to help people become more free and hopefully give them the tools and inspiration to set them on a path towards great things.
And this documentary is out February 12th?
The premiere is February 12th here in LA, and then it'll come out for a week after that online. So they can watch it on greatness.com. They can opt in and watch it for free.
That must have been a pretty expensive.
Very expensive.
.com.
The documentary was expensive. The .com was expensive, and I funded everything myself. And everyone said, get an investor for these things, but I just want to build it all and have complete control over my ideas right now.
Yeah. So this, if people want to come to the premiere, is there space
Greatness.com.
for them?
I mean, we just put it up the other day, and it's getting sold out pretty quickly, but there's probably going to be some tickets for the next few days. So.
And then if not, they could see it the following week.
For free on Greatness.com, yeah.
Awesome, Louis. So I think that's a good way to end this. And do you want to mention your book at all? Because I know you're working on a new book.
No, they can check out my last couple books. Everything's at my site,
Yeah.
lewishowes.com, School of Greatness podcast.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Lewis.
Thanks, bro.
Appreciate you.
Man.